Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen. Today we're making a homemade chicken pot pie, and by request I'm doing a traditional chicken pot pie. So Tom, this is for you. I hope you make this, and it's so good. I hope you enjoy it. So these are the ingredients. This is what you're going to need. I have about 3 cups of chicken meat. This is a great way to use up leftover rotisserie chicken. And what I did, and you can cut this if you like, but I like the mouthfeel of shredded meat rather than the chunks. So that's all that you need to do to shred it. Then we have 4 tablespoons of, this is butter mixed with oil. The oil will prevent the butter from burning, and it gives a different flavor. You can use olive oil, you can use vegetable oil or canola, whatever you like. This is 1 medium onion that I've diced, 2 large ribs of celery, and I'm also going to throw these in. Now, if you have celery with these leaves like this when they're light green, they're actually really delicious in things like stews or something like this. I use them all the time. It's a botanical cousin to parsley. And it does kind of look like parsley now that you know that, right? So we're using celery and the leaves, and I will chop this in just a moment. I have some parsley to finish the dish. This is a little flour and a little bit of cream. You can use anything, cream, milk, half and half, whatever you have. This is 2 cups of chicken stock. Homemade is best, but if you want to use store-bought, just get low sodium. And then I'm going with a mix here. I'll probably use half of this bag. This is a 1-pound bag. It's carrots, green beans, peas, and corn. And this is just a quick way to just put some vegetables into the dish. Easy. Here I have pie crust that I've made. Now, you don't have to make it. You can use store-bought, and that will be fine. This is for a double crust. If you're making pie crust, just leave the sugar out of it. But store-bought is fine, and puff pastry would be really good too. And then these 2 other ingredients are totally optional. This is just what I like. I'm using a low starch potato, about a cup. And the low starch potato gives you a really creamy, delicious mouthfeel when you're eating the chicken pot pie. And I also have 2 tablespoons of brandy, and we'll talk about that later on, but this is totally optional. Okay, so let's start cooking. First thing I want to do is put some fat in here, melt that down, and then put the onions and celery in here. The frozen vegetables are back in the freezer, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the potatoes, because they take a little while to cook. So at this point, what you want to do, the pan was hot. Shouldn't have been that hot, but that's okay. What you want to do is just what is called sweating these vegetables. And what that is cooking a vegetable at a lower heat. I'm going to low medium on this. I want these vegetables to get wet and fragrant, and just like when you sweat, right, you get hot, wet, and fragrant. That's what your vegetables are going to do. I'm going to put a little salt on them, and that helps them to soften up, helps them to exude their moisture. I'm leaving that for about 3 minutes, so your vegetables don't have to be perfectly cooked right now. They'll keep cooking when they're in the oven, and you don't want to brown this. I've rolled out my pie crust, and that's back in the refrigerator. So I did that while this was cooking, and I just wanted to get you started thinking about what you're going to put this into. What I love is the crust, and I'm using a double pie crust. Rather than putting it on the bottom and the top, this bottom crust never tastes delicious. It's always kind of gummy. It's not very good. So what I like to do is I will take whatever pie pan I've chosen, and you can use a regular pie pan as well, or a deep dish. If you use a deep dish or something that's about like this, which is about 3 centimeters, 1.5 inches, what you want to do is fill it about halfway with your filling, and then put the pie crust on top of that. And I find that that's a nice ratio, and you don't miss not having a bottom crust at all. Here are your options. You can go small and you can go large. And here's the difference that I have learned. If you use a large pan, what happens is it's just difficult to put a crust on something this size. So I've stopped using this one. Instead, what I do is I make 2 pans that are this size. I just freeze one of them. You put it in the freezer, just like this, you know, it's already made, right? Put it in just like this, let it freeze, and then take it out, wrap it with foil, wrap it well, and then put it back in the freezer, and it will last for a couple of months. So that's a nice quick dinner one night. You take it out, you thaw it, maybe overnight, and then just put this in the oven, and you have a fresh chicken pot pie for dinner. If you're using a smaller pan like this, then what you want to do is just cut back on your baking time. It'll take about 20 minutes for this size and probably 30 or so for these larger pans. Now let's step into the pan, see what's going on there. This smells really good. Let me just test one of these potatoes. So this is it's not completely soft. It's just midway into cooking, which is exactly what you want. And like I said, that was probably 3, maybe 4 minutes on the outside. Perfect. What I'm going to do is what's called a liaison, and it links your vegetables to your stock and makes a creamy stock. So I'm just putting about a tablespoon of flour in there. I'll bump the heat up to medium and just stir that in and make sure the flour incorporates into the vegetables and let that cook for about a minute. Now, if these vegetables don't seem like they're all coated, just add a little more flour. My goal here was to make it so simple that you would not be intimidated to make this, and you can get it on the table. This could be a weeknight dinner. It really, I mean, so far we've spent about 5 minutes on this. Chicken stock goes in. And you want to scrape off the bottom of the pan, because the bottom of the pan holds a lot of flavor. And then you also give a treat to whomever it is in your family that's going to get to do the dishes. They get a nice clean pan to wash. That makes life easy for them. And you can see this is thickening up. I'm going to put the rest of this in. So that was 2 cups of chicken stock going in. As soon as this boils and begins to thicken a little bit, we'll come back, and that'll be about 2 minutes from now. As you can see, this is starting to bubble and it's creamy, and that's exactly what you want to see. So now we can move on. So far, this has just taken a very few minutes. You want to taste as you go. I tasted this earlier and the salt was good. I'm going to add a little pepper. This is really ready for the oven, but the caveat here is you don't want to put your cold pastry, because it's in the refrigerator, you don't want to put that into a pan full of hot stuff, because what's going to happen is your pastry is going to become melty and gluey and not be delicious at all. So the way that I avoid that, I take the chicken that I had in the refrigerator. Now the chicken goes in. This is cold, right out of the fridge. That goes in, and I have these vegetables. Well, the package says that these take 5 to 8 minutes to cook. It will be in the oven for about 30, so these will definitely cook. And I'm just going to eyeball this, but I think I'm going to end up using about half of the package, which is 8 ounces, about 200 grams. And those are frozen veggies. Let me get these parsley bits in here. And finish it with a little bit of cream or milk. If you're using milk, you definitely do not want to do this when this is bubbling and on the heat, because your milk will curdle. So now I'm just going to taste this, because I've made this sometimes where it just needed a little something extra, and I've tried sherry, don't like it. I've tried Madeira, I tried wine, vermouth, what else? Anyway, I've settled on just a little bit of brandy if it needs it. If it needs that je ne sais quoi, that little certain something, then that's what I use. It's a little bland, so you can feel it. This is just lukewarm. It's ready to go into the pans. I'm just going to divide this between the two pans. So all that you have to do now is just top this with your crust. I rolled this out. It's not perfect, but that's okay because it's going onto a pot pie. One of these will be going into my freezer. Now, of course, if you use a pie pan, you can make this look very pretty, but I like this organic, rustic kind of look on the crust. And then you want to make some vents. You can do a little shape. Maybe I'll do a leaf. It doesn't really look, well, it kind of looks like a leaf anyway. It doesn't matter. You can do this with a knife as well. Anyway, one of these will go into the freezer. The other is going into the oven right now. And keep your eye on it. But all that you're looking for is the crust to be golden brown. And that can take anywhere from 30, sometimes 40 minutes, depends on your oven. Never trust an oven, so definitely keep your eye on this. Well, here it is. It looks golden brown and delicious. You can see it kind of bubbled over, but luckily nothing went into the bottom of the oven. But it's a good idea to put something like this on a sheet pan. Like any casserole, this is going to have to sit for about 15 minutes just to let everything sort of calm down and meld together, and then we can cut into it. Well, 15 minutes is up. We're hungry. I'm excited. This smells so good. You have a nice crispy crust, and then underneath, you know, with a salad, this is really such a nice meal. You saw how quick it went together. It smells so good. My mouth is watering because of this crust. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you try this recipe. Let me know if you do. Let me know how it works out for you. You can freeze it for later. It's a great lunch, a great dinner, great leftover on its own, and it feeds the crowd. So I hope you try it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.